All right, guys, it's time to take your favorite succulents and find the great combination and put them into your pot. Your minimum is 3, okay? So 3 is the bare minimum. I would say 5 is your maximum for how many you can fit on this size of paper this year. So I have all of my sketches here to kind of help me out. I did make 2 more after I looked at some of my reference images that I supplied you guys and said, you know what, I didn't really make one like this and I didn't make one like that. So I wanted to make sure that I had a nice variety to choose from. Variety being different textures, different sizes, different sort of shapes. So I want to pick at least 3 that are going to provide some different things for me. I want to make sure I have some height to come upward on my paper. I want to make sure that I have texture differences between the 3, and I want to make sure that I've kind of created a full enough pot, okay? So I did really enjoy this last one that I found. So I'm going to do that one as my tallest one. So some of you may choose to do something like this for your tallest plant, but I'm going to do my tallest plant first and then work my way in front a little bit more, okay? So I'm going to choose to make my tall plant on like the back right. Now remember that all of your plants need to fit inside of this oval. They don't go on this back edge, they need to be inside the oval because this is where our dirt is. This is where they are planted, or our rocks, or whatever we're planting with them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add my leaves and my height for this side. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then once you know that your plant has crossed in front, you're going to go ahead and erase that back edge. So a lot of that back edge is going to disappear when you start adding your succulents and cactuses. So now I'm going to go ahead and add in the detail for this one. There's this like fine edge detail on all of them. So I'm adding that to all of my leaves, making sure they all are pretty identical or the same. We're going to disappear into the dirt down here. And then we've got these kind of parallel line or curves inside each leaf, I think is probably the best, or branch. So again, I'm creating interest because they're not simple anymore. Now there's a little bit of detail to the plant. And I got this directly from a reference image in that folder that I shared with you, okay? All right, so there's one, and I would know that I've got some dirt in here, or rocks, that I can potentially add to my drawing. Okay? All right, so the next one I'm gonna do is, let's see, I think I'm gonna do maybe this round one to kind of balance out the length of this one. So again, your minimum is 3 and your maximum is probably 5. I think I might be able to fit 4 in mine based on kind of how I've started, but we'll see. I'm gonna go ahead and put this round one. Do I want it in the middle? I can't quite decide. It is gonna go sort of in the middle, so up and over, but I'm going to make it shorter than the more aloe-like plant. So this is kind of like a globe. And now I'm going to go ahead and take my magic rub and erase the back edge of the planter where that overlap is. And now I'm going to add in, this is almost like drawing a beach ball, where like all the pieces come to a point, right? So then I can have a little flower at the top. And then I need to add in my spike detail. And I should probably clean up this edge. It's a little too sketchy. So there's cactus or succulent number 2. I think succulents are the like official term because I think all cactuses are technically succulents based on how they work in nature. All right, so I've got that one. I definitely need to bring something down more. I've got all my things are very elevated. So I did really enjoy this one that I drew earlier, as far as like drooping down out of the plant. So I'm gonna have it come from the dirt and droop down, and then have a second piece droop down and make it a little bit of a different line. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add those petals. And now that I'm drawing bigger, I'm gonna make sure that my petals are a little bit more unique in shape as I go. I don't want them to be fully identical as I work my way up the pot. All right, so I gotta just erase anything that crosses through, because this plant would be hanging in front, right? And then I gotta do the same thing over on this side. I like to kind of erase as I go so I don't forget. Some of my leaves I have touching each other, some of them I've left a little space in between. This is where I have to be careful because I do have some overlaps to the other plant. So I need to decide which one's going in front, which one's going behind. See, I'm going to erase here and here. Okay, so I've got good movement kind of across and down my paper, but I have this space here. So I think I'm good to add one more type of succulent or cactus. So it's really kind of up to you with what you want to put in your space. But I'm thinking about like different textures and different representations. And even though it was the hardest one for me to draw, I'm going to draw something like this one. So always having that reference image open for yourself again would be a good idea. I'm going to make mine a little bit different this time, I think. There's so many different kinds of succulents. I'm going to start with this one and kind of work my way out. So even though it's pretty small, it fills in that space just enough to make sure that it looks like it belongs and it doesn't impede on my design at all. It really kind of fits in that space nicely. So just that little one right there I think will do the trick. So I've got one spiky one, one more striped, I've got this long droopy one, and I've got that more flower shaped one. So I think my pot is pretty full. So at this point I'd want to go and look at, you know, where do I want little dirt accents? Where do I want rocks? So I can add some kind of like pebbles. And it's going to be kind of hard for you to see these until you color them. So don't panic. And we got to make sure we're thinking about overlaps and underlaps again. Okay, so I've added some rock detail, and I know it's a little tricky to look at. All right, so our planter looks great. So the next thing that we're going to do in our next step is we're going to add patterns to our planter, and we're going to be inspired by those Aztec and Navajo patterns that we think of when we really think about the Southwest. So I'm excited to do that tomorrow with you guys.